I began today thinking that it was going to be a special day. A day where I get to go out and try out a new piece of gear. And while that is technically true, I feel like I may need to inject a little more opinion into this video than perhaps I have in my previous videos. I recently purchased the Fuji X-E1. It is a 10-year-old camera that began the current line of Fuji cameras that I have already, namely the X-E4. This camera has a sensor that is commonly heralded as the most similar to actual film in the entire Fuji X lineup. Obviously, this piqued my interest. I found a used and somewhat beat-up copy of this camera for $120 and was thrilled to try it out. Here is where things began to go downhill. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad camera by any means. Really. I'm suggesting that it may not be the best camera for my use case. Overall, this camera feels nearly the same as the X-E4. They are small, compact, lightweight. They don't take up too much of a footprint in your camera bag. A couple of buttons and switches have moved, but overall, they're similar enough to not make a big deal out of it. The issues I'm currently having with the camera are I don't love the JPEGs straight out of the camera. I find them to be lacking the character I would have expected from a camera with such similarities to film stocks. The images seem flat, underprocessed, generally pretty blah. On the other side of that, I'm thrilled how strong the RAW files are out of this camera. With little effort, I can push them to look like the film stocks I would want. However, that's not really why I bought this camera. Using an older camera comes with certain realizations. First and foremost, the camera is generally going to be slower. The menu system, the autofocus, even booting it up, this camera is going to be a bit slower than its most recent iterations. What I find most enjoyable about that realization is its similarities to the function of a film camera. I am used to completely manual cameras. You load the film manually, you advance the film manually, you focus manually. You get the idea. So knowing how to slow down can help you avoid some frustrations. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's not that the camera has issues, but that I haven't allowed myself to slow down and appreciate what this camera is. It's an entry point to an entirely new world of photography. Maybe this isn't the camera you bring out because you want fast and accurate autofocus. Maybe it's not even the camera you bring out because you want great images right out of the camera. I began today thinking I was going to be able to use this camera just like my modern X-E4. I went out thinking it's going to do what I want with the same amount of effort. But maybe not. At least not for me, anyway. A lot of people love the images they get out of this camera. Not every tool is built for every scenario, nor every person. What I think using this camera is teaching me is that your expectations and reality aren't always going to be in line. But that doesn't mean the reality is necessarily bad. It may simply be different. I can treat this camera as another addition to the arsenal of tools that help me create the art I find so much joy in creating. Its use case for me, and for you, might differ. And that's a good thing. Not every painter uses the same brush, nor every writer uses the same pen. I guess my point is that Whichever tools you decide to use to create your art should not be dependent strictly on the opinions of others. Certainly not mine. At least, not all the time. If you've been enjoying your time watching my content, I hope that you remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the Fuji X-E1 and what other content you'd like to see me make. Until next time, adios.